Welcome to Lightroom, and so today we're going to take a look at presets. Now, a little disclaimer on presets. If you are a beginning photographer, presets are not a good item for you to use. The reason is you need to learn how to tone and adjust your photo manually before you start using presets. Well, why? Because presets do something to a photo, but every photo is completely different. And you're still going to need to most likely, even though you click on a preset, go in and further adjust that image to get it exactly how you want. So just because one preset works on one image does not mean it's going to work on another image. So you need to make sure if you use presets that you still know how to come over here and adjust images, and where it does something cool over here, it's not anything specific that you can't do yourself. So all these presets, there's not like some secret hidden trick in here that people did when they created presets. No, everything that's over here, you can easily manually do over here. So you need to make sure you know how to use this for this to be able to be used effectively. So what we're going to do is create our own preset. When you're using presets, if you want to see what it's going to look like on your image, you have this Navigator window. Now, this is really small and hard to see, but as you hover over the image, it shows you what it's going to look like in this sort of little preview window over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to adjust this image a little bit. So we're going to scroll up here to the top, and we're going to turn this to black and white. And we're going to say, oh, that looks pretty good. I'm going to open up my shadows a little bit. Now, one thing to notice, when you do a preset, it does not take into effect any adjustments that you make with the adjustment brush. Because if, like in this image, if I darken this here, most likely in the next image, that little spot's not going to be able to need to be darkened. So just because you make an adjustment with the adjustment brush, it's not going to carry over into the preset. Presets are basically for global adjustments, meaning an adjustment that affects the whole image. So in this image, I'm going to need to darken some areas and open some areas with the adjustment brush. So to use the adjustment brush, we're going to come over here and click on this. And then I'm going to double click on effect. Double click on effect sets everything back to 0. So what do I want to do? I want to darken some spots. So we're going to just lower the contrast, lower the highlight, and lower the exposure a little bit. It's not a big deal if that's too much or too little, because you can come back in and adjust that. And I'm not trying to be super exact here, just kind of going through here to kind of clean it up a little. So let's say that looks perfect. And if you do need to come in, once you've kind of painted those in, you can come in and further adjust them and get them right where they are. A lot of times when you make that initial adjustment, it worked, but it might not be perfect. So if you need to come in and adjust stuff more, you can. Now I'm going to create a new one because I want to open up the horse. So I'm going to hit new, double click on effect, and then I'm simply going to brighten this horse in those two areas. And then I would come in with my brush. I'm not going to do this really well. I'm not going to go down and get the leg because it's a waste of time for a tutorial to spend that much time being this exact. So that's good. We'll say that, okay, that looks good. That's how I wanted to open up that horse. And we'll open up her head a little bit. And we'll assume that this photo is toned perfectly, which it's not. And that looks pretty good. So we are going to click on the adjustment brush to get rid of it. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to come down here and we'll add a little vignette. We'll say that that looks good. And then we're going to go up here to split toning. I'm going to click on the highlights box. That's going to bring up my color picker. I'm going to pick this yellow. And then I'm going to come down here and click on the box. And I'm going to pick a shadow color. Now this is too much. I don't want that much. So what we're going to do is we are going to lower the, come up. Oops, didn't mean to do balance. Saturation. That looks pretty good there. I'll lower this a little bit. That looks pretty good. So the balance, what it does is it adds more either to the shadows or more to the highlights. But I'm just going to keep this image in the middle. So you can sort of shift that. If you have a lot of shadow areas and you need to shift it, or sometimes you have a lot of highlight areas and you need to shift it. So this looks pretty good. So actually, I think I'm going to increase shadows just a little bit. So the next thing we need to do is create a preset. So we'll come over here to the plus. We'll hit create preset. Now, if you want to create a group or a main category, you just go to new group and we will call this test. And then I'll hit create. And then we can name or label our preset as to what it does. So we will call this split tone yellow / blue. Now, when you're creating a preset, you need to make sure if you made an adjustment over here that that has a check mark in it. So in this case, we use the black and white setting and the split tone setting. We need to make sure that these have been selected. Over here, we have lens correction. We didn't do any of those. Effects, yes, we did use effects. We don't need grain, but we did do post-crop vignetting. So anything that you did to the image, you need to make sure that it has been selected. Otherwise, it will not apply it. Which works good the other way, that if you didn't want to apply, you made this, but you didn't actually want to apply the vignette, you could turn that off. So whatever you want to do. For right now, for this test, we're going to leave it on, and then we're going to hit create. So the way this works is we have, these are your kind of categories that we created. So here's that test. I'll open up test, and the inside of test, we have that split tone preset. And now I'll click on that preset, and just like that, it applied it. Now, it's not perfect on this image because remember, it doesn't save your adjustments. So right now there have been no specific adjustments where I brighten the horse here and darken these spots. So I would need to go in and do this. One thing that you need to remember is just because you made a preset doesn't mean that you can't change the preset. So if I want to come in here and adjust the blues or the yellow values or the brightness or anything that I did and even add more stuff to it, you can still come over here and change it. And that has to go with any preset you have available. Hopefully this has been helpful. If you have any comments or questions, you can leave those below. And as always, don't forget to subscribe.